This episode of 6'5 Guys is brought to you by Defiance Machine, defying tradition with innovation. Elr Rifles, precision on another level. JC Steel Targets, the industry leader in quality AR-500 steel targets.
Hi, we're here today with Chase Stroud at the ELR Central inaugural World Record event. And now many of you know Chase for his ubiquitous and often imitated pump pillow.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, and you see him in PRS circles, and here you are, you're doing ELR. So tell us a bit about your journey.
Okay, so when I was about 15, I actually started out in ELR. And I had built a custom 7mm and was shooting that thing, maxing out scope, reticle. And, you know, we were shooting out 2,700 yards, depending on our pressure. You know, we'd shoot as far as we could possibly shoot with that system. And I was doing that quite a bit. And then I was, you know, reading online, and then the 6.5-47 popped up. I was like, hey, I think I'm going to try one of those. And I built one. I really liked it. Shot just phenomenal. And then all of a sudden I see a post on Sniper's Hide about this thing called the Precision Rifle Series that was starting out. I said, you know, I'd actually like to give that a go. And yeah, I put ELR on the back burner and started shooting my 6.5-47 almost exclusively. And then the first match for the PRS ever came along, and it was at there in Texas near Cleburne, and we show up to this match and they have these things called barricades, and I'm like, what is this crap y'all are making us do? You know, I've only been shooting prone, you know, and I remember the first time I shot a barricade stage, of course I zeroed it, you know, big time. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is not what I expected. But, you know, ended up getting 9th place in the match. And just basically quit shooting prone altogether. And I built 3 or 4 barricades on my 1,200 yard range at my house. And that's all I did was practice barricades. And We Bad Tactical, being close to me, they had this bag called a Todd
Tac pod?
Yeah, the Todd bag is what we called it back then. Todd Reynolds had kind of helped design that, and he was the one that made the rock solid stock. And you know, we made that work. And then one day I was just like, man, if this thing was about 2.5 times the size, it would be perfect to fill that void. You know, when you're down in this position right here, we're kind of still floating and whatnot. And
this is what we're talking about.
So yeah, this is actually the new iteration of the pump pillow. This is the modular one. So it's got a zipper on it, and it's got these bags you can remove and fill and make it as full as you want. Because at a time it was rumored that the PRS was going to go to a single bag per match. Well, guess what? I can do anything I want with this bag. I can use it prone or on a barricade, or use it for standing off-handed, and fill it up as much as you want, make it as empty as you want. And this thing is just really good. So, you know, I start practicing a whole bunch. Well, I'm sorry, back to the story of the pump pillow. I call Robert Badgett and David Weiss, and they're on a deer hunt out in Big Bend National area in West Texas. And I said, hey, I got an idea. I said, let's make the Todd pack 2.5 times the size. And they're like, why? And I said, think about it, when we shoot off of a barricade and have a knee down, you know, we're putting it on the tip of our elbow and we're still kind of janky with our position. So they make this the first pump pillow, and we go out and try it and just clean in everything. It just stable as you can be, because it's when you get in this down position, we're now completely filling that void, as opposed to the Todd tack pad. We're doing this, and you know, we're still holding a little bit of muscle tension. You want to be as neutral as you can. Take us out of the equation.
The bag is so versatile because you
That's
can use it in so many other
exactly.
positions. Yeah.
Well, and I think what's very relevant is a lot of folks are looking to minimize the gear.
Yeah.
And you can.
I carry this, and I carry the rear bag that I'm actually shooting in the ELR mats today. That's it. I don't have anything else. I have 2 bags. So I've got a prone bag and a, you know, supported position bag.
Yeah.
So, and this one is kind of my personal goings on. I've got a flush cup mount, so I can flush cup it to my rifle, or I can run the D clip on my belt loop like such. Throw it out of the way if you don't need it. If you need to drop prone at a certain point in the stage, just throw it out of the way. Anyway, you know, it's realistic. I actually use this thing to hunt all the time. Works great out of a deer stand, you know, so you're not just doing this in a deer stand, you know, you can still put your elbow in that other window and get more points of contact. So, but, you know, the PRS, I had success. I won 7 PRS matches in the last, I haven't shot a PRS match in 2 years because I've just been doing ELR now. So
I saw your last win.
Oh, at the shoot for the green or the Vegas match?
The Vegas match.
I actually won. I won another one after that.
Just for good measure.
Just for good measure, okay. I guess. So I won the shoot for the green. That was when David Tubb had released his new reticle. I was shooting it, and was just on fire. He said reticle makes things easy because if you're shooting troop line and all the targets are in the same line, you got 5 mile an hour wind dots in there every 5 mile an hour. Well, if you shoot your first target, say at 300, and you hit with a 10 mile an hour on the second dot, well, now no matter what the distance is, I hold the second dot as long as your targets are in the same line. So your wind angle, velocity are the same. At this point, you just change distance, hold the 10 mile an hour because it grows, it graduates as the distance goes. And it's got crosswind jump and spin drift built into it also.
So having shot PRS
Yep.
and coming back to ELR, you know, as I think about folks that are kind of looking at this side of the sport, you've shot PRS, you're like, gosh, I really want to kind of push things farther.
That's exactly it.
What sort of things should be thinking of, you know, aside from equipment? What sort of differences, what do you need to be prepared to do?
Your ammo making ability needs to be just pristine. Like, ammo is so important. This is my ELR rifle. This is a 375 Chi-Tac built by Robert Vestal, Vestal Custom Guns. It's a Stiller single shot 408 action. I've got a Rock Creek 8R 7 twist at 33 inches. It's a Mirage ULR chassis. It's about to be switched to the Macmillan Beast, which I'm super excited to get that thing built. My new Chi-Tac is going to be on the new JJ Rock action. So that's the best action I've ever felt. It's just ridiculous. But this one, I've got a Night Force 5-25 ATAC R. I've got the Ivy Gen 3 rings here. Okay. Those have 52 mils of available travel. I've got 35 mils from my 100-yard zero in my turret, and then I've got 30 mils in the reticle. And then over here, for really going far, we've got the new TACOM HQ Charlie Tarak. And what this is essentially a prism system. And it's got 2 mirrors in there that refract your, basically your point of aim. So when I attach this thing, we've got rare earth magnets on the front of this system. You gotta watch your fingers because it will mash them. See how hard that mates up right there. And then you've got 2 screws that you actually just, you know, you don't need them, but if you have a lighter weight, heavy recoiling rifle, you put those 2 screws in right there.
Yeah,
so
let's actually bring this back.
Yeah, and for the folks in the audience, what you're trying to do is, you know, a lot of folks, you know, they're familiar, you know, you'll have like maybe a 20 MOA base, right?
Correct.
So that you can get more elevation.
Correct. So 20 minutes, typically with most scopes these days, will let you get to at least the top quarter of your scope travel. So you can use at least 3/4 of your internal. This is a custom base set up for this rifle with this scope at this scope height. So it literally is to the click, bottomed out with a 100-yard zero, perfect. And then I've got the Ivy rings, like I said, which add an additional 52 mils. And then this Charlie Tarak, I actually have this one set up. Tomorrow we're actually gonna shoot for 6,000 yards. We're supposed to have 1 to 2 mile an hour winds. We've shot this rifle already at 5,000 yards, and it's unbelievably consistent. We just haven't happened. My biggest target's 34 inches. We just didn't happen to hit the target the day we shot. And we're at sea level down in Texas where I shoot at 200-foot altitude. So we have extremely high pressures.
And the distances where you would want to employ this, what sort of distances are we looking at?
You can rechange the zero on this. So on this particular rifle, I've got this one set up where when I dial out my turret and my reticle, that's 65 mils, okay? This particular rifle, I'm shooting 400 grain cutting edge lasers at 2,850 feet per second. Down at sea level where I'm at, my 2 mile zero is 62 mils depending on pressure, but typically around 62 mils. Well, that's my turret and reticle maxed out. So I actually set this thing from the factory at 60 mils. So all I gotta do is slap it on and then fine tune it with my reticle. So the very first time I ever took this thing out, we had a target at 3,582 yards and we hit it on the very first shot. Cold bored it at 3,582. And so they're extremely accurate, they're repeatable. And then the furthest we shot, like I said, is 5,000 down at sea level a month ago when it was like 25 degrees. So we had 30.2 pressure, which is like a negative 2,000 DA. So we were just shooting through mud in the air, you know, dropping a whole bunch. Well, now, tomorrow, we're supposed to have like a 26 station pressure at 45 degrees. I've got this thing set up for 120 mils. My Ivy rings dial 52, 35 in the dial, 30 in the reticle. So with my Garmin 701 with the AB Applied Ballistics solution, we ran the numbers on it. I need 232 mils for a 6,000 yard shot. I've got 236, I think, with everything. So we're gonna be maxing this system out, everything it's got, tomorrow. And will we hit it? Realistically, probably not. But hey, you never know. We're gonna document everything on video. I video everything through my phone scope and Swarovski spotter. And you know, we're looking at about a 19.5-second time of flight on the bullet. So, but if we're shooting in 1 mile an hour winds or dead calm, then we might scare it. So, and again, unrealistic distances to shoot. All we're doing is just seeing how far we can push it.
Now,
so
aside from the obvious equipment differences, this is a much more expensive endeavor, I would imagine, than your typical, what we would typically consider long range, right?
Ammo, yes. Rifle builds are about the same. Okay. So a Stiller Action's gonna run you $1,200. Mirage chassis, I think, is $15, depending on what setup you get. Barrels are the same cost. Scopes are the same cost. So your more expensive setups are gonna be in your Ivy rings if you wanna shoot that far, and then your Charlie Terac, which is around, I had mine expedited, so it ended up costing around $1,600 to have it shipped in a week. So,
but your consumables like the ammo, obviously.
Yeah, so, you know, we're shooting, if, you know, you have much better luck shooting lathe turn solids like cutting edge bullets. Ridiculous, just unbelievable.
What, about $1.50 each?
$1.80 for the ones that I shoot.
Okay.
I think, don't quote me on that. It's the 400 laser. You just go to the cutting edge website and check them out. But Peterson brass, best there is. Unbelievably consistent. I weighed 100 pieces of brass on a FX 120 scale. I had 0.4 grains of variation between 100 pieces. That's phenomenal.
But in the sport, you're not going to be shooting the volume of ammo.
Absolutely not. So you don't want to cook these barrels out too fast because it costs a little more in the gunsmithing to have these bigger things built. But you know, a good day, if I go out and practice, I've got a 9 by 12,000 yard field where I go train at. And that rifle, by the way, weighs 29 pounds as it sits. So
pretty heavy.
Yeah, it's fairly heavy. I've got a diamond, Trigger Tech diamond trigger set at 3 ounces on that thing. It's phenomenal. But a good practice day when we go out, we'll typically set out, you know, 4 or 5 pieces of steel in an array of wind direction. And we typically don't waste a whole lot of time inside a mile. These guns are so consistent. You know, at 1,000 yards, you're kind of wasting ammo.
That's a warm up.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, my rifle's only 5.1 mils to 1,000 yards, and it's like a 0.6 and a 10 mile an hour full value at 1,000. So you know, if you're shooting at a 2-minute target, well, there's 0.6 mils right there. You're going to hit the target every shot. So ELR is kind of about, you know, getting out of your comfort zone, seeing how far you can go with it. How far can we consistently get hits? Well, right now on a day like today, you know, we had what, three world records set. My first shot at, you know, I only shot at 1500, probably a little too conservative, but
you're going to go longer.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I've nothing. What am I going to do? Miss? I miss. In ELR, we miss realistically 80% of the shots.
Yeah.
You know, again, we're just seeing what we can do. My first shot today at 1503 was about 2 inches right of dead center, perfect elevation. Mirage didn't lay over anymore. I sent my second shot down range and it missed 1/10 of a mil off the right edge. And I was like, what the heck? And I looked at my spotter, Mitchell Fitzpatrick, who's a King of 2 Mile winner. And we were like, I said, did you see a pickup in the Mirage? And he said, no. And the flag didn't change either. So I sent my third shot and hit about 2 inches from my first shot. So, you know, whatever happened on that second trigger pull, just missed. But this afternoon, we'll probably shoot at the 22, how far is that one?
Now, you know, we've had a lot of conversations with our users. I feel like I'm at work. I'm sorry, it's my day job. Our viewers. So, for example, when you're loading for PRS style shooting, for example, you're looking for SDs, you know, 5 to 10 feet per second. You tolerate maybe an ES of 15, maybe 20, and you've got decent ammo.
Okay, that's the thing. You're at 1,000 yards, that ammo is still going to get by for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, it's typically 2-ish minutes size target at 1,000 yards, depending on the RO. You're still going to be in the plate for the most part. The distances we're shooting, we don't even look at SDs. ESs only. And if you're above a 10 ES, you need to redo your load development and find a better node. This rifle right here consistently shoots sub 5 foot per second extreme spreads. The beauty of it is I run H50 BMG and each kernel is 1/10 of a grain. Pretty easy to dial that in on a scale. So that's really nice on a nicer scale. So you can, you know, if you find your node with the correct charge, it's pretty easy to get good SDs, or I'm sorry, ESs at, you know, at least below 7 feet per second.
Yeah.
And
also for those of you who've watched our videos with Scott Satterley, he really watches that ES over SD, so it's very interesting. That
and especially, you know, and again, we don't shoot a lot of volume, so you don't have to shoot 10-shot strings with these rifles. If you can go from a cold bore and shoot 5 shots and you've got a 7 foot per second extreme spread, that's pretty typical of what we're doing out here. Okay, a world record, you get 3 shots and then you have to wait 4 hours before you can shoot another string. So you can even get away with 3-shot strings over chronograph, because we don't shoot more than that in a ELR match. With the exception of King of 2 Mile, it's a little different setup. Then, you know, you actually need to chronograph say a 12-shot string or so, because if you hit, you get to move to the next distance. Lathe turn bullets behave a little bit differently when they get a barrel super hot. So you kind of need to make sure your gun doesn't kind of start spiking up on velocity, well, you know, say 12, 15 shots. So our ammo, you know, you run a cutting edge bullet, it's got a seal band on it. Rifling is typically not an issue. I run 8R rifling because I didn't know what bullet I was going to set on. And then when I tested the cutting edge, it was a wash. Like, it's not even worth really looking at some of the other stuff. But on a calm day, a rifle like this will typically shoot about a 5-inch water line at 2,000 yards. So that's
impressive.
Pretty consistent. But you know, if it's winding, gusting, letting off, you know, then you got your aerodynamic jump to consider, and your wind call and your elevation will change also. So you got to be able to audible that while you're shooting. So when we were shooting at 5,000 yards, we were shooting in a fishtailing 5 to 7 mile an hour wind. Well, if you look at your elevation will actually shift about a mil when it goes from 5 to 7 a clock at 5,000 yards. So you have a mil of elevation to deal with on top of your wind calls going, 4 mils either direction. So again, we had bad conditions that day. The wind was blowing about 12 miles an hour and fishtailing. So, I didn't expect to hit the target, but we showed a lot of consistency out at the target. We had bullets within 3 feet of the target, like stuck in the dirt right there. So Rich Emmons is starting a new series called the Jackpot Series, and it's mostly prone shooting, but back with these kind of rifles. Well, I've been shooting David Tubbs stuff, firm believer in it, and this is, I've been waiting 3 years for this rifle, but this is a left-handed David Tubb ADT or ATR, which is the adaptive target rifle. So he has this thing kind of optimized for field use, and it's kind of a target rifle at the same time. So this action can take a lot of sand and grit. You can run it 100% dry with no oil, so you won't gall the bolt up. It's 3 lug, it's multi-caliber. You can run standard bolt face, Magnum bolt face, or a 585 Norma or Lapua bolt face. So this one is going to be spun up in 6XC. Peterson's coming out with their new small primer brass, which I'll be running small primer 6XC, and then it'll be a 300 Norma. And this magazine system is kind of what the rifle's based around. So this will hold 13 6XC rounds. It'll hold 9, say WSM or RSOM rounds, or it'll hold 6 300 Normas. And so it comes with different bolts with the system.
And for those left-handers in the audience, before they get all hot and bothered, they can get a left-handed. This is not just for Chase.
No,
right?
no. For a while it was, but since they went ahead and made it, they're going to go ahead and sell it. Now this is going to be unicorn for just a little bit. It'll be the only left-handed ATR for probably 6 months or so, and then they'll be in production.
Okay. I remember when David shared that with this SHOT Show, with the right-handed version.
Right. Man, I went and shot, I'm left-eye dominant, but I can shoot right-handed just as good as I can left-handed. But I went and shot David's at his ranch, and I'm telling you what, it'll make you want to throw rocks at your other rifle. So, great off barricades. Again, it's a folder. I do a lot of predator tournaments, coyote hunting, bobcat, etc. So this thing's gonna be really good for hunting out of trucks. You can actually shoot it. Hold that magazine for a second, thank you.
Well, and we'll visit with David at
Sure.
SHOT Show, and I'm sure he'll talk some more about this. We also have a video from last year's SHOT Show with David, where he goes through the rifle.
Yep, and so I'll put the DTR V2 Mark 8 scope on here, and we'll run DTACs to match the density altitude, and it's a holdover system with no dialing out to 2,000 yards.
And since you've shared a lot about this, what sort of MSRP are we looking at?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know if he's 100% settled. You can ask him in the interview. Last we had talked, it was back and forth between 2 different numbers, and I don't want to throw the wrong number out. So
don't blame you.
Yeah, but
stay tuned. Just watch our SHOT Show
stay
videos,
tuned.
And you'll get the final number.
And the beauty of this thing is you can run it it's just slick, and you can swap from a 6XC to a 300 Norma if you need more payload.
Absolutely.
Just super simple out in the field.
There's a beauty to having one gun for everything.
That's right. So, all right, guys.
Chase, we really appreciate your time, and for our viewers, you went into a lot of detail, and I'm sure this probably would serve as a nice introductory video to ELR with all the detail you went into. So we really, really appreciate your time.
And again, tomorrow we're going to be videoing everything we do. We're going to shoot 5,500, and if we have success, we'll go to 6. But I'm going to video everything, and if we get some video, I'll send it to you, and y'all can
absolutely
y'all can share it.
Really appreciate it.
Yep, I'll have my target camera from Target Vision. I'll have it at the target videoing impacts, and then I'll have my phone scope on my Swarovski from shooter to target.
Excellent.
So
thanks a lot.
Good setup.
Well, folks, remember, life's an adventure.
Stay on target.